Stuff that you say for my project.
Oh, I thought you were to write it down.
No, I'm not writing it down.
Okay.
Shorthand.
No,
All right,
I don't know
it's-
shorthand.
It's going. Go ahead.
Yeah,
fine.
you should
Mhm.
have shorthand.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Well, I don't know how to do it.
Well, you can do it in all 3 languages.
Mhm.
The same shorthand.
Okay, go ahead.
Where are you going? Okay. So start off saying your name and how old you were when the war started. What about you?
World War II. I was 11.
12.
You were 12 and I was 11
Yeah.
years old.
Mm-hmm.
Your name?
1940. And my name was Inger Berit Gokstad. And your name was?
Wilhelm Hjort.
Good. Okay, just start off telling me how it was living then.
How the war started?
Yeah, well, not how the war started, how
Your life was.
your life was
Well,
at the start.
when the war started, I left for school and was told to go home because the country was at war. And coming home, I said to my mom, "We are at war." And she said, "With whom?" And that has been a joke since. Because they all knew we would be attacked by Germans or English.
Mm-hmm.
Both countries wanted Norway because of the coastal line, I think.
Yes.
If you look back. And I was, what grade were we in? I forget. No. When you were 11, what grade are you in? When you started
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade. Yeah, 6th grade. He was a year ahead of me.
Moet je whisken?
No, but you have more to tell about that
Yes.
than I do, because we did, I was sent to a farm to
Mhm.
stay there for 2 months till the war was over.
Yeah.
And, but he was on the west coast where the British
Ja.
were hiding in a ship and going straight in, so they were bombed.
I wake up in the morning, 9 April. My mother get to the window. She said, "It's this war."
Yeah.
The German airplane over the roof
Yeah.
and the bombing in the harbor. That's what I remember.
That's what you remember. And your mom took the meat.
Spreekt niet Norway.
They evacuated out of the city.
Out of the city.
Most people evacuated out of the city. That's the worst thing you could do, because
Yes.
that's where the fighting was, not so much in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
So his mom took their dried meat, a big lump of meat, under her arm, and 2 kids out of the city. For how long? I forget.
1 week.
1 week. Then she thought, "This is silly, I'm going back home."
Yes.
Then the rationing started. You weren't allowed more than a certain amount of milk, no eggs. They cut down on the meat and the fish. Anything you could eat, anything edible was rationed right away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, eggs.
Yeah, potatoes were rather free.
Mm-hmm.
So we ate potatoes.
Potato or fish.
For 5 years, we had potatoes. Our potato, you know, our kitchen has usually a pot that you use for potatoes.
Yeah.
Ours was a little tiny one, just enough for 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
But that potato kettle, that grew. So at the end of the war, we had potatoes in kettles like this, because that's all we could eat, all we had to eat. And I still like potatoes. right?
Yes.
But rationing was very heavy, but it didn't suffer. Kids, we were supported at school. You went to,
I have 3 dinners. 3 dinners on a day.
three dinners a day.
Yes.
He went to, when we got to school, one day we got a pea soup,
Pea soup and
yellow pea soup. The next day we had oatmeal soup. Then the next day was pea soup again. But that was
and a
breakfast
scoop.
at school. And then we had it in a little pot or pail. I brought a pail with me. And your Aunt Ellen has that pail still. It's about this big. The ones that really went hungry was our parents, not kids. I remember I didn't rinse out that pail. I left because I didn't like the lumps in that soup. And my father ate those lumps out of that when I got home. They were hungry.
Yeah. How about clothing? You're telling me.
Clothing, we didn't get any.
I did nothing.
And you know how your feet grow when you're 11,
Uh-huh.
and 12, and 13, 14, 15, 16. No new shoes.
Fish shoe.
They made shoes with
Made
wood soles
and fish skin.
and fish skin on the top.
Yes. Don't cut out the rain.
Yeah, if you wore them when it was raining, your shoes would fall off. But those wooden soles were hard to learn to walk on.
Yeah.
And everything we had on was, well, like you had a sweater and your mother would tear it apart and use the yarn over again and make another sweater. We didn't have clothes at all. We had one thing to wear to school
We have new dress.
and one at home. And the stockings in the winter, we had patches on the knees.
If you
Remember?
two things. If you have tobacco and liquor, you get everything.
Yeah, you traded.
Yeah.
Trade it.
You were allowed 1 bottle per adult in the family. 1 bottle a month of liquor. And everybody made sure they got that liquor because they could trade with it.
Yeah.
But I can't say personally ever gone hungry. I was thin like you are. Food didn't.
Did they give you a cod liver?
Oh yeah, the cod liver oil
Yeah. That's
in
right.
a little egg cup full of cod liver oil.
Yeah. If you taste cod liver, this time and today, two different.
He thinks they're better today.
Yes, the cod liver under the world is taste pickle.
Well, it was just awful.
Oh.
And the teacher would stand right there and make sure you took it.
Yeah.
Rotten fish smell.
Instead of orange, we were given rutabaga.
Yes, very.
Slices of rutabaga because that's good for you. I don't think. I can't remember anything good about
Yes,
the food.
apple.
Apples, yeah, if you were lucky to find apples. And I can remember I took home ec in 6th grade. And there was nothing there that you could make that was good. And the teacher would make sure you used it. And I had underwear that had,
Stick.
yeah, it
Rubber
was
band.
rubber. It was rubber around here, you know. I don't know if you have those kind of pants now, but I stuck it up in there to get it out because I didn't want to eat it. That I remember. It was some awful stuff. Some fish, cod. What's it Roman? I can't think of what it's called. I can't think of anything good to eat during the war.
Even at Christmas?
Well, yes. Then my grandmother was fortunate. She had a ulcer, so she got a little white flour. So we saved that and made cookies at Christmas time. What I remember more than anything is that people were very good at entertaining themselves.
What did you do for entertainment?
We didn't have TV or radio. The radios had to be turned in. No one was allowed to own a radio because we might be able to hear the news from abroad, and that was one of the reasons they all had to be turned in. Except my grandmother, my mother's mother, she was not about to turn her radio in. She had worked hard for that radio. And she lived right next to the Germans, had occupied the house right next to her, and they had a radio going, and she thought she could have hers going too. So, but I think she learned fast that she better not do that because they'll come and take it.
Yes, you take it right now, you're put in jail.
Yeah, you put in jail if you had a radio. But she didn't turn hers in though. And I was a scout at that time, and I had a scout uniform, and that had to be turned in because that was very British.
Yeah.
To be a scout. And for some reason, after the war, right after the war, they told everyone that had turned their scout uniforms in to come and pick it up. And I got mine back.
That's good.
I still have it. Yeah, I saved it. That was another story about the war. You were not allowed to travel more than, what, 10 miles?
10
maybe,
miles up to the town.
outside of the area where you live. The school buildings were taken, so we went to school in the oddest places. I went once to, what do you call, where the horses run around. What do you call that? Oh,
Corral.
Huh?
Corral.
No, where you...
Racetrack?
Racetrack. I went to school at a racetrack, out in a kind of a restaurant in the middle of the racetrack. I went there for a while. And if you were within 1 grade to 5th, then you went in the morning, and then if you had higher grade, you had to go in the afternoon till 5. But we never went back to our school building for 5 years. We were somewhere in storerooms and wherever they could have a school, they had to go to that. It was taken over by the army, German army. And what else can you think of the war?
Do you
There any other
Did
questions?
you see any troops marching through the streets? Or?
Oh yes, oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes. And they sang. They had a song, didn't they?
Yes,
Sing?
yes, yes. We're gegen England.
Oh, that's, well, they sure did. Yep. The soldiers in the northern part of Europe were very well controlled. I think it's in the southern part they were worse. But they never, can't remember hearing them doing anything that was, except when they arrested people. I did see that.
No, that was the army.
But that wasn't the
The
army,
army,
that
it's
was SS.
Yeah.
And you could tell an SS from an army man.
Because the uniform was
Black, and then had the SS on the collar. I saw one man being dragged out of his home. That kind of shook me up. And then my cousin and I had gone skating one evening. On the way home, we heard this big bang, and there was a man that sat in front of the church and blew himself up. That was another sight. I remember.
Man hung sig bredvid henne.
I know. And all the windows in our house was broken because it was, I don't know what he sat on. If you were, no, I can't think of anything
Yeah.
else that happened, but
We in the West Coast have much more contact with the war because they have in the Bergen have a submarine bunkers. All the German
submarines.
submarine have a headquarters in Bergen. On the Laxevåg.
Yeah.
We have 44. I think we have the English or American flag coming bombing in especially October. I think we have attack every not every day, every night, but
Usually.
twice a week. A bombing.
They took about part of that city away, and the sad part was they managed to do it where there was a school.
Ja, det var tråkigt.
You know, in those days they weren't that accurate like they are today with their bombs, and that killed a whole school group of children, and that was sad. But the whole part of the city was gone. But that was war, so. He probably had more of it, and then where my other grandmother lived was also a port city. And we went down there once, and I remember they bombed the harbors where the ships are. But you know, a bomb, it makes your houses kind of shake too, if you live that close. That happened quite often.
How about when the Americans came?
Well, first the British came. They were more serious and older soldiers. But the Americans came, then the life began to. They had more, I don't know what's the difference in an American and a British soldier, but there's a big difference at that time.
Yeah.
They were more serious and older, and the Americans were more happy-go-lucky. That's all I can think, and they set up dances and all kinds of things.
Vet du wrote it?
No. Well, I remember the first day after the war. I remember I was upstairs in my bedroom looking out, and I saw a Norwegian flag go up. And then we knew it was coming, but not exactly when. We thought maybe there would be war again, or real fighting, but it wasn't. They just gave up. And one other thing I remember, my mother, she was a quiet kind of person. You know, there were some women that kind of, they went out with the Germans, and of course they were looked down upon.
Well,
And after the war, they cut their hair and marched them through the streets, and I can remember my mother, of all things, that quiet person standing out by the road saying, "Shame on you," in Norwegian, "Shame on you." These poor girls, they were just young girls that had fallen in love with a German soldier, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they were really ostracized and sent out of the country too, with their children. And was sad.
Yeah.
A dumb way to, but that's what war does to you. You hate. It brings up a lot of hate. I don't think you have that here.
do the same here to the Japs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Japanese.
45.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the same.
I think it's a sad situation, really. Do you have any other questions?
No, just any last things you want to say?
No.
Do you have any questions?
Hmm? No, well, after the war, people went back to work.
No, I went back to school. Yeah, I wasn't finished high school. I didn't finish high school till 47. So, it's, and the food, I don't think actually the food became plentiful till about 5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Really plentiful.
I remember after the war, Danish pork,
Danish pork.
Danish
came up.
pork imported.
Yeah.
So much fat
On the pork.
on the pork and so much meat.
Well, another, my mother never, one thing that was not washed in the kitchen was the frying pan
Mm-hmm.
because of the fat. We couldn't waste the fat.
Yeah.
So that was never washed, the frying pan. But starvation was, or actual hunger was not felt by the kids, but more our parents. They lost a lot of weight. And health-wise too, I think. Stress was like your parents would today.
Mm-hmm.
But as a child, I think you kind of
Do you think it contributed to their early
Yes.
deaths?
No.
No, I
No, no,
doubt
no, no.
that, but,
Older or your mother?
no, and
What
my mother's
She's more have Spanish
flu.
flu in
After the First World War.
Mm-hmm.
She almost died then.
Yes, that's the back reason because it died.
That's what they think, that might have brought on that
Yeah.
illness.
MS?
MS. You can live with MS for quite a while, but she lived 5 years with MS. Died. And my dad, that was cancer, so that's not by the war. But he had a brother who was in the whaling business, or whaling ships. And they go out from Norway in the fall and come back in April. And of course the war started the 9th of April, so he never came back. But was in the war in the USA, in the ships. And he was ill, became ill, mentally, stress.
You have a convoy.
And when he didn't come right after the war, we didn't hear anything, and I think that worried my grandmother and my father. It was his only brother.
You see,
And then he went to Oslo. Finally, the ship came in and had over 500 men that were mentally ill from the war.
you see the convoy from the U.S. to Murmansk, north of Norway, to the Russian border. And you see the convoy started with 50 ships here in the U.S. and only 25 come back.
Mm-hmm.
It was too stressful on quite a few people.
In North Atlantic,
Back and forth.
a German submarine.
They
I
were,
think Norwegian lose 4,000 shipsmen annually convoy over the North Atlantic under the war.
and then about over 500 came in that ship that were mentally sick. Stress. That was sad. Because then they didn't know what to do with. Now, today, you can have medicine for that, but not any. Then they didn't know what to do. So that was a bad result of that war. All those men, 4,000 dying, and over 500 came home sick.
And pretty much put them in institutions.
Yeah, well, he had to be. Well, he came home as he was not married, so he stayed. My grandmother stayed with her, but she couldn't handle it because he would walk all night.
Mm.
He wouldn't sleep. He'd walk all night, and they had to come and put him in an institution. He was. I went to visit him once with not. Yeah, your uncle was born then in 54, I think it was, and he was perfectly normal to me, just to sit and talk. He says all the rest of them here are just crazier than anything he told me. But it was hard to go in there because you had to be. They opened up with a key, one door, and you walk in, and then another door. And, I thought that was sad.
Yeah.
And he stayed. He lived there quite a number of years.
Didn't you work in a garden near one of those places and or to get food?
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
One summer
One
job.
summer job. Summer job.
And these people were crazy. They would.
Ja, det var crazy. I am Napoleon.
I'm
That's
Napoleon.
And so the other crazy man pitied me. He's crazy.
It's crazy. He worked there. Well, he worked the whole summer in that farm. Just so he could get food.
Ja, vi beklager. No.
But your talk about clothing, you grow those years.
Yes.
So everything was short and tight and
Tight,
Sports.
yeah.
no sports. Right?
Well, sports is
No
not.
sport.
Sports are not taught that way. In
Det var inte tillåtet. Eller det var sabotage.
yeah.
No Norwegian have no sport on the war because the sport is a Nazi had. See?
Yeah.
It's not. It wasn't. And even today, sports are on your own. It's not with schools.
No.
They don't have it in school. They have gym, but not sports.
No sport.
That is private or belong to something. Today,
Okay,
too.
let's see if I can get anything else. I'm gonna stop and see
Well,
if
you better stop this now. I can't talk anymore. I don't know. What more do you want to know?
That's about